Hello, my name is Matthew, and today we're going to interview the PTH scientist in the field of molecular genetics, yeah, surgical science research, Dr. Pergolizzi. It's a pleasure to meet you, Dr.
Pleasure to meet
Pergolizzi.
you too.
He's currently the director of the Surgical Science Research Laboratory Clinical, Basic Science Research, Young Education, at Angel Health System in New Jersey. The purpose for this interview, Mr. Pergolizzi, yeah, is gather information about your professional career story.
Sure. Well, it's doctor, first of all.
Oh, sorry.
So it's okay. But and so you have specific questions you want to ask me? Please, go ahead.
But before we start, I want to stay. That you have given me your permission to conduct and record this interview.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and also notify you that the only person who's going to see this interview will be my professor.
Very good.
Yeah, that's okay.
Of course.
So for the first question,
Yes.
please tell me in as much detail as possible what job duties you have. Specifically, tell me what managerial your supervisory duties do you have?
I see. Well, I run a lab here, the Surgical Sciences Lab, and we do experiments. Basically, they focus on trying to come up with things that vascular surgeons can use. So, when you have what's called peripheral vascular disease, you don't get enough blood to your feet or your lower limbs, and you could lose a limb. You get an amputation or something. It's because of inadequate blood flow. We want to be able to provide the vascular surgeons with something that can restore blood flow to the area. So we've been working on this. The lab has been working on it for quite a while, long before I got here. But now we have something that we're very excited about, and we are trying to pursue that, and we need to interact with the FDA to try to get permission to do studies in human beings. But that laboratory, we do experiments about that particular topic. I also do all of the biostatistics for the hospital. So if other people are doing projects and they have, they have data that needs to be analyzed, I help them with that. And I do that for all the hospital departments. In addition to that, we have, in vascular surgery, we have what's called a fellowship program, where in order to become a vascular surgeon, after you do your residency in general surgery, you then specialize for 2 years in vascular surgery. And I run the basic science component of that program. So I train the fellows that we have in the department. So, that means that I have to keep informed myself about what's going on in medicine, what changes are coming. And there's a lot of changes. I mean, medicine is becoming more personalized because now we can get genetic information about you and me and every individual. So things that used to be, common to everybody, now we can really zero in on this individual. And, by getting their genetic profile, we know specifically how to treat their cancer or how to treat their diabetes. And medicine is changing very rapidly now, but it's exciting.
For you, how important is communication? In your field?
Critical. It's absolutely critical. I mean, you could be very, very smart and very productive and very creative, but if you can't communicate what you've done or what you are thinking about to other people, you really will never, be able to establish yourself. And I have met some brilliant people who are not good communicators, and the opposite is also true. I mean, I know people who have the gift of gab, but they're really not very smart. And so it takes all kinds, I guess. But no, communication is very important, no doubt about it.
How did you begin your career in this field?
It's a long story, I guess. But when I was a kid, I remember we had a little house in Queens, in Rosedale, Queens, and a little one-family house. And we had a little front lawn, and my dad was out on the front lawn pushing this old-fashioned lawnmower, with the blades that go around. And I was sitting on the stoop. I remember I was bouncing a ball. I must have been 7 or 8 years old. And Rosedale is right near the swamps over there between us and what used to be Kennedy Airport, and it's still Kennedy, I guess. And so we have these frogs, that were jumping all over the garden. And, I'm just sitting there minding my own business, and my dad is pushing this lawnmower, and I see this frog jumping across the lawn, and I'm getting concerned that the frog is going to jump right in front of the lawnmower, and my dad's not really paying attention. And he did.
Oh.
Right. So my dad hit the frog, and you could see pieces flying all over the place.
They're like birds.
Yeah. And he cut up the frog, and I go running over there. And my dad, he's trying to shield my eyes, because he doesn't want me to see this thing. But I was pushing his hand away, and I remember I had this thought. I'm just a kid, but it occurred to me, this thing was alive a minute ago, and now it's not alive anymore. And I thought, what happened? In that moment, when you go from being alive to not alive, what's going on? That was where I started thinking about, the difference between health and disease, life and death, all of those things. I was just a kid. So I didn't know how to pursue that. I didn't know what to do about that. But, then when I started to learn about science, and I, went to this high school that had science courses, and at first it seemed like, chemistry was the place to be.
Okay.
But, that changed as I learned more. And then I got involved in biology and in biochemistry and then molecular biology. And all of these fields are growing with me, at the time. So it was really exciting because we're getting all this new information. And then, of course, the internet happened, and now we could get all this information fed to you, And you know what? I'm still a student. I consider myself a lifelong student. And
yeah, because medicine is always advancing, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is, and more rapidly every year. I mean, the changes are just astonishing. So, when you say, how did I establish myself in my field is still changing and growing. And so I'm still trying to establish myself constantly,
Yeah.
It's, I think it would be boring if you were just, doing something that didn't change. If you were just doing something that's the same all the time, I would get bored with that very quickly. But here, there's always new things to learn. There's always new ideas, new things to try. So I think the short answer to your question is I'm still establishing myself.
So, Dr. Pergolizzi, my another question is, what kind of decision do you make in your job?
Decisions?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of them. I have to decide, first of all, what experiments to do. Mm-hmm. That's, I guess, the most important function in my job. I have lectures that I have to give to students and to the faculty here, the staff, and I have to decide what to speak about. And then I have to put lectures together and organize my thoughts. Sometimes when you have things you want to communicate to the rest of the world, I have to decide what journals should I send this to, or, how should I write this up, and what meetings should I go to? And, there's, one of the nice things about your career when you do research is every day is different. You basically establish yourself as, sort of a head of the laboratory or something, and then you make decisions about what do we do next? Where do we go? So it's a tough question, really, but I'm always making decisions. Of course, we get ideas from other people too. I mean, I'm not a dictator, so we have lab meetings, people propose things that they'd like to do, and if it's a good idea, I say, yeah, let's do that, so it's very interactive, and I never assume that I know more than everybody else. I always listen to people and listen to their ideas, and I'm always learning from the people I work with. I am an absolutely voracious reader. I love, I mean, it's almost an obsession with me. I read constantly. I have books in my car, behind the toilet, at home. Every place I go, I'm reading something, and it's a desire to learn. My kids make fun of me because I have this list of books I want to read, and I keep telling them I'm going to drop dead before I finish my list, and they think that's funny for some reason. But no, so that's it's complicated.
So, Dr. Pergolizzi, the next question will be: what advice would you give to someone who wants to enter this career?
It's a tough career. Be prepared for a bumpy ride. I think it's gotten tougher. It has been, when I started, if you wrote a grant and it was sensible, it got funded and you get money to do your experiments. Now it's much, much harder. And, the government, I think, isn't as focused on research as it used to be. Under this administration, research has really been sort of, quieted down a lot. So I really think my advice to somebody was, if you want to do research, that you have to be prepared for a very, very competitive, very difficult lifestyle. But, don't do it if you don't love it, would be my advice. You really have to love it because it's not easy.
That is really a good quote for you.
Oh, okay.
From you. Yeah, that's a good quote.
Okay. You can use it anytime.
Can you tell me about your educational background?
Yeah, we spoke about this a little bit earlier, but I went to Brooklyn Technical High School, which was one of the special schools in the city. When I went, it was all boys. Now it's co-ed. And at that school, which was really amazing, you had to pick a major. There were like these, I think, 9 different courses of study, and I picked chemistry. And so even in high school, I had a ton of chemistry. Every day you had like multiple different courses in different areas of chemistry, which was amazing. So after tech, I went to Columbia University, and I continued to study chemistry, and it was very, very hard. And it was a difficult time, really, because the Vietnam War was going on, and
really,
oh yeah, people were being drafted, and I had friends coming home with legs blown away and something. So it was a scary time. But then after I graduated, I went to work as a technician in a lab, and I enjoyed that very much. I got my first paper out then. But then after a couple of years of doing that, I decided that I wanted to run my own lab. And to do that, I had to go back to graduate school. So I applied to schools, and I got accepted to a few. And I decided to go back to Columbia because they offered me the most money. And I really was very fortunate. All through my education, I was able to get scholarships. My family didn't have a lot of money. And, my dad died when I was 17.
Oh.
And
sorry for your loss.
Thank you. No, they were great. My folks were great, but they didn't have enough to pay for my education. So I had to make sure I always had a job, even though I was, had a ton of studying to do. So I went to Columbia. I, got my master's degrees there. I got 3 of them in biology, biochemistry, and philosophy. And then I completed my PhD degree in molecular biology and genetics. And then I did what's called a postdoctoral fellowship. Also at Columbia, I just changed departments, and that was in human genetics and development. And then after that, I went to work in what is, at that time, the brand new biotech industry. I mean, these companies were just starting, and it was exciting. But after I did that for 4 years, then I decided that I really didn't enjoy it because, I wanted to share my discoveries with the people, with the world.
Yeah.
And the business was more about making money, than about sharing. So I was able to go back to academia. I went to North Shore Hospital where I got a job as director of molecular genetics. And I stayed there for quite a while. Then I went to Cornell University Medical School and I became a professor there. And I ran a laboratory studying gene therapy, how to use genes as medicine. And I did that for several years before I got tired of writing grants and tired of commuting into the city every day. And I've always lived in New Jersey through this whole process here. And so I retired from Cornell and I went to teach at the Bergen Academies right here in Hackensack. And I ran the research program there and taught biology. And that was really good. It was very close to my house, actually. And then I got tired of doing that and I retired and I figured I was done, And a month later, they called me here and offered me this position, running the laboratory. And I accepted it. And, my wife wants me to retire, but I think I'll do this for a little while, And, all of that has been part of my education because, as I said before, I'm a student. I'm always learning, So if you ask me about my education, it's still happening.
Can you tell me about your prior work experience?
Every place I've been and everything I've done has been so different from what I did before that, it's all this like on-the-job training, I mean, the truth is that with research, you're always kind of working at the cutting edge, trying to develop something new. And so there really isn't that much to fall back on that other people, have done before in that specific area. So that's a tough question, but I guess everything I've done has contributed to, how I think about things and, the ideas that I have. And I sometimes, it's really exhausting, but I still, to this day, I still have fun with it. I still kind of enjoy what I'm doing. And, you hit roadblocks all the time. I mean, the roadblocks can be money, you don't have enough help, you don't have enough material, you don't have enough equipment. And, it's always something, and you have to figure these workarounds. And so, that's what I do. I'm constantly, solving problems. And, yeah. So, everything I've done in the past has made me a good problem solver. So that's, I think, the best way to put that.
What do you believe that is the most important and useful skill in your field?
Oh boy. Useful skills. Well, as I said to you before, we're trying to develop something that vascular surgeons can use. I'm not a vascular surgeon. I've never done surgery on anybody. So I really need to depend on other people to tell me, does what I'm studying, does what I'm developing make sense? Is it going to be useful? Is it going to be helpful? So it is very interactive. I don't know if that answers the question really, but the most important thing is listening to what other people are telling me about what needs are out there. And then our job really is how do we address those needs? So how do we meet unmet needs in the world? I mean, what needs to be developed, what needs to be done? And is there anything that we can do and anything we can develop that's going to help with that? So I don't know if that answers the question really. But just
well, that's okay because maybe you're referring to the communication, maybe. Yeah. Maybe the communication. Can you tell the Dr. Pergolizzi? Can you tell me about one of the research that you have worked on the past, or you're currently working it?
what work we're currently doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. The work here at Englewood in the Surgical Sciences Lab is we're trying to develop what are called conduits.
Okay.
These are pipes that carry blood that we can implant into people to help with areas that lack adequate blood flow. So very important one is what's called peripheral vascular disease. Diabetics, they lose toes or they can have their feet amputated because they don't get enough blood because their vessels get stiff and clogged. So surgeons can restore blood flow if they have a pipe that will carry blood to the area that's affected. Unfortunately, there's nothing out there that really works very well. So we've been trying to develop something that we can use in people, and their immune systems are not going to reject what gets implanted. And so that is one very important area. Another one is what's called cardiac bypass.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I mean, sometimes your heart, which is really just a big muscle, the vessels that feed blood to your heart get clogged. And if they're clogged enough, the blood doesn't flow to the muscle and you can have a heart attack. So if they find that you have this, you clogged arteries in your heart, they do what's called a cardiac bypass, where they take a vessel and they actually go around the clog. They actually sew it right in there. We are also trying to develop things that, very often surgeons who do those operations, they take a piece of your own blood vessel. But that means that, they have to cut out part of your blood vessel, and then you have to heal from that. You have to recover. So we're trying to provide something so they could use that right off the shelf, and they wouldn't have to take your blood vessels that you're already using that you need, and your recovery would be faster. And we think what we have developed isn't going to clog, and that it's going to be very, very useful to surgeons. So that's what the lab is working on. And your aunt in histology down there has been very helpful.
Really?
Yeah, in the analysis that we do. I mean, after we implant these things in animals, we leave them there for various periods of time, and then we take them out, and we bring them downstairs to histology, and they, embed them and make slides for us so that we can study what does this look like, how did it do. So I'm indebted to your aunt, Jasmine Burgos, forever. I mean, she's been incredibly helpful to us. I put her on our papers, just because she's such an important part. We can't do that. What she knows how to do, what she's an expert at, we can't do it. So we wouldn't even be able to analyze our experiments without her help. So I'm grateful. And hope that answers that question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then my last question will be, do you have any future goals in your professional career?
I'm 75 years old, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to get to do this. As I told you, my wife wants me to retire now. So, I would love to say that I guess my biggest goal is to see what we've developed in the lab actually used in people and that people benefit from it.
Okay.
That would make me feel very, very satisfied with what we've done. Other than that, I really have had a very nice career. I mean, I have no complaints. But I tell people my best job I've ever done was being a dad. I have 3 boys who I love. Now I have a grandson, and they're all grown, obviously. I have been very fortunate. I've had a very good professional career. I've had a very nice personal life. And I'm still, even at this age, I'm a pretty healthy guy, doing okay. So my goals are to watch my kids grow up and, see how they do. And, hopefully see some of the things I've developed over my career, useful to people, to help them.
Okay.
That's about it.
Well, after all this pleasant time, knowing you better as a professional, we have to come to the end of this interview. Mr. Pergolizzi, has been a pleasure and an honor talking with you.
I've enjoyed it too.
Thank you for your time, and also have a nice day.
Thank you. You too. This was great. You did a good job.